You're listening to the One Foot at a Time podcast presented by Drill Right Chemical. Today's guest, Joshua Spray, Territory Manager with Digital Control Incorporated. And now, here's your host, the Mudman from East Texas, Dennis Whitehurst.
Hey, y'all, welcome to One Foot at a Time podcast today. We have special guest with us today, Joshua Spray with DCI. This is the first time I've met him. Him and Anthony worked together when Anthony was with DCI, and we invited him today to be a part of this because we'd like to hear how he's become a part of the industry, when he became a part of the industry, and how he became a part of the industry. Josh, we'll start off today. Tell us a little bit about your story. When you got in the business?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually went to school back in the early 2000s for criminal justice, and got out of school and was working part-time at Best Buy at the time of the Geek Squad. And right around the 2009 mark was when kind of things turned downwards, and there were not a lot of people were buying stuff, and I
didn't need any more Geek Squad.
Didn't need any more Geek Squad, so I got cut out of that, and I actually had a family member here over in Iowa that was working for a local co-op, farmers co-op there.
Yep.
And they were looking for a propane gas installation tech. And so I applied for it, got it. I was down to my last $20 in my bank account, and I took everything I could, packed it in my Jeep that would fit, and I slept in my Jeep for about 2 weeks until I had enough money to go and rent a house, a little one-bedroom house, and working for that company, I basically was installing propane lines from the propane tanks to the house or to the farmer's barns or whatever it was they were trying to do there. And I did that for, going on probably 5 or 6 years. And then after that, my cousin Anthony was working for Vermeer Factory. And he was working for the tooling department in Vermeer Factory for what they call Bore Store.
Okay.
And
that's in Pella?
In Pella, Iowa, yep. Just down the road from where I was working at. And He was always telling me about, the stories of what he was doing, traveling around the country, around the world, talking to customers, teaching them how to do directional drilling and stuff. And I was like, man, that actually sounds super cool. A single guy in my 20s, being able to travel around the world. I was like, man, that's cool. Like sign me up. Let's get into that. And I applied at Vermeer Factory for almost a year. I kept applying, putting my paperwork in, and then we kept taking the positions and kind of rewriting them so they had different specs or different qualification needs for them. And so it took me almost a year to get into the company, but finally I did. Perseverance paid off. Got into the company, and I worked at Vermeer Factory in the Bore Store for 6 years underneath Chris Fontana. And then
that's awesome, man.
Yep. And then after that, I got the opportunity. I saw that DCI was hiring, and I had known pretty early on that I wanted to work for DCI. I knew really quickly once I got in the industry, and I'd met a guy named Andrew Golly, which Anthony knows very well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I met him out in the industry, and he was teaching us how to run the Falcon systems. And I just, being a former Geek Squad guy, I was all about the tech, was into it, and I knew right away.
It was right up your alley, wasn't it?
I knew right away it was right up my alley. So I did everything I could from a business standpoint, to make a name for myself out there and try and get my name in front of as many DCI people as I could. And when the position came open, I applied for it, and it was actually a pretty rigorous process to get a job with DCI, but I pulled through, and here I am now. I've been with DCI for going on 6 years now.
Man, that's a phenomenal story, and I appreciate you sharing that with us because this just goes to show you that no matter how far down you are financially, you can't get up. But what does it take? It takes work. And
exactly.
Tell us a little bit when you was in that car. And you was living in that car. Tell me where your thought process was at that time. That's got to be heavy.
Tough. It was tough. Not knowing what I was going to eat the next day. It was tough. I was basically down to ramen noodles at that point, which you can buy a pack of ramen for.
I lived on them for 30 days one time.
And I was sitting there, and I was basically down to ramen noodles and some little Vienna sausages. And I tell you what, it was It was the lowest part of my life for sure. Not knowing what I was going to eat the next day or what I was going to be able to do, and I had a lot of bills closing in on me from the school and some open bills and stuff that I just had to neglect to pay because I didn't have the money to make it work. And when I got that first paycheck from the office, man, it was like, okay,
yeah,
we're gonna be okay.
It was like a celebration. Things are looking up.
Exactly. And I still didn't have all my stuff, so then I was able to go pay the first payment on an apartment, and I had a blow up mattress, and I stayed on that for about a month until I had enough money to travel back to.
Well, that blow up mattress felt good though, didn't it?
It was great. It was phenomenal. And I was probably about 100 pounds less than I am now, so it was about perfect for what I wanted. So it. Man,
I love hearing the rags to riches story because it's you see it so much. You see it a lot in this industry. The more you get to know people. A lot of the drillers, a lot of the locators, a lot of the guys that work in the industry come from nothing and have made it to where they're at, and we've all done it, 1 foot at a time.
It's hard work, and having a vision of where you want to go, what you want to do, and being okay with doing the dirty jobs because it'll get you somewhere.
For sure.
Being able to swallow that pride, and make the sacrifices you got to make.
Do you remember the first bore you went out on?
Yeah, I was out in the first time I ever went out on a bore. I was out in Arkansas, and we went out there, and it was a rock bore, and I just remember. Having no idea what I was looking at. All I knew was they were drilling in the ground. It was my first day of Vermeer, and they had literally, before I started, they had bought the plane tickets and everything for me. I didn't have anything but my bag and everything, and they're like, all right, as soon as you get here, we're hopping the plane, we're going down here.
That's awesome.
And I remember getting down there, and my coworker Keegan, he started at the same time, and then we're basically learning on the job from that point forward, just like having no idea what we're doing. And man, I remember being bored out of my mind on that rock job, seeing those drill houses, the drill going about foot a minute. It was just taking forever. I'm like, does it really take this long? I'm like, sometimes it's worse.
You remind me of myself when I remember when I was 14, I was working at a construction company in Winsboro where we live, and I was working there after school. And one afternoon, the owner, he asked me, he said, he called me Denny. He said, Denny, he said, you know how to, he was real tall, real big guy. Larry Sparks was his name. He goes, Denny, you know how to run that tractor out there? I said, yes, sir. And I'd never sat on a tractor one time in my life. But I knew I could figure it out. I felt like, So I go out there and I look down and I look at the gears and it all looks like first, second, third, clutch. Yeah, I got this figured out, So I cranked it up, checked the oil and stuff, cranked it up. I just take off down the road. Well, there was a feed store right down the road, and they had a rock driveway out of the construction company. And I get about in front of the feed store, and he comes around me in his truck hauling butt. I'm talking about screeching tires. He pointing his finger, and I pull over. He gets out, and he goes, what the hell are you going to do, plow all the way to City Hall? And I didn't raise the plow. I was headed to his house to help his son plow the garden, and but I had the plow down the whole way. But I'd have never got the chance to work the tractor had I just said okay, and or told him no. And it sounds like you did the same thing,
Yeah.
Like, just give me a shot. Just put me in a game, coach.
Just throw me in. I'll figure it out.
Yeah. So,
that's funny.
What is your typical day like? What do you do?
Gosh.
I mean, what's a typical day look like for you?
So as a territory manager, my job is basically customer service up for the foremost is to make sure our customers are able to get their equipment up and running. And then after that, I work with all my dealers, make sure they're trained up and that they're also getting their needs fulfilled from a DCI standpoint. So typically I'm up at 4:30, 5 o'clock every morning and kind of getting my day started.
What area do you cover?
I cover the Northeast territory of the United States. So I cover everything from Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, all the way to Maine. And then I have the eastern half of Canada.
Okay.
Yeah. So I travel quite a bit. Travel a lot for my job. I'm on the road Probably 75-80% of the year. Almost every week I'm on the road until we get into kind of Christmas, and then it slows down a little bit.
How long have you been with DCI?
Just about 6 years now.
6 years.
Yeah, about 5.5, 6 almost. Yeah. But yeah, I'm up by 5 and then I'm on the road usually by 6:30, trying to make to my first customer job site or to their office or something, and then I'll try and fit in 2, 3, 4 customers a day if I can, or if we're doing a job site, if it's a startup or a demo or something, then we'll be on that job site usually most of the day, or
so you're out training people on the locators every day.
Every day, yeah, we're doing something, and in between that, then I'm also answering phone calls. I'll get anywhere from 0 to 100 phone calls a day. It seems we're doing troubleshoots or answering questions on this, that, or whatever. And
you know what I would like to do sometime? I would like to get a guy like you that's been at DCI, and you guys know everything on the latest and greatest locators. I would like to go out on a bore and get like a Mark III.
Oh yeah,
and give it to like the guys and just see what see if you guys
figure it out.
Yeah, because that's how we started in this industry. Basically nobody knew anything, and we would buy a rig, get a locator, and basically have to teach ourselves. And the customer supports came a long ways in this industry, but it's been it kind of blew up in the 90s, and I think they were probably everybody was struggling to figure out the industry, even figure out how to use the equipment they were bringing to the industry.
One of my favorite quotes from Dr. John, who's one of the founders of DCI, that I've heard him say is that in the old days they were trying to hit a football field size target with a horizontal drill, and now we're trying to hit a 6-inch knockout. And the technology we've come so far, just trying to get that level of accuracy and get that level of professionalism down to make this a real solid industry.
Yeah, one thing I've seen change places in the industry sort of are the guys that locate and the guys that operate.
Yeah.
Back in the 90s, the guys that located were the ones that pretty much ran the crew, and they were the ones that decided how the bore was going, what they were going to do, and they were telling the driller what they needed. Now it's almost flip-flop with the way the technology has advanced to where the driller is running the job, and if he needs to move the box or he needs a certain reading from somebody, he's telling them what to do. So roles have reversed in that in some aspects.
Yeah, you're spot on 100%. The drill 2 or the target steering crowd out there has definitely grown incredibly much.
Oh yeah,
from the very beginning. And when I'm out teaching customers, I'm pretty adamant about how I train my guys when I'm out there doing training. Is I'm like, look, we're going to teach you the right way to do it, so that you have the skill set to come back and figure out the right way every time. And then once you figure it out the right way, then I'll show you the easy button.
Right.
And we'll show you that more advanced piece, which is the target steer piece, because that's not really the where you need to start. You need to start out with the basics and actually know what you're doing, and that'll make you a more desirable employee in the long run, anywhere you go, no matter what.
Well, when I was drilling, had a drilling company, and that's what I loved to do, was run the locators, especially challenging bores. I mean, it was just fun every time you get a challenge, and going uphill at 20 degrees, and got to be at a certain depth, and having to calculate it up, and
trying to
figure the math in your head and not have to break out a calculator. And it was very entertaining and enjoyable to me.
I agree with you right there. It's almost like a game. You're playing your head on every rod, trying to figure out how deep you're going to be and where you're going to be at.
Yep. And then you see the guys out here that's all they're doing is flat work through the yards, and I'm like, man, that'd be so boring. I want the turns and the curves and uphill, downhill, and having to go in between two utilities and thread dive and needle, and so it, that was always my heart when I was in doing the directional drilling as a contractor.
I 100% agree with you. The hard ones are the fun ones.
What bore, do you remember any bore teaching you a lesson, like you was just at your wit's end and you learned something on that bore?
My wit's end, oh gosh.
batteries not working.
Yeah,
interference.
We did this bore one time down in Cleveland, down in downtown Cleveland area, going underneath a creek bed area, and I tell you what, it was deep. The sucker was deep. I think we had to be on the ledges of the creek bore. We had to be almost 100 to 115 feet deep. And I was still relatively new to the company, and so I was still learning a lot at that time. I think I was only a year and a half, maybe 2 years still in,
right.
And I'm still very new to trying to figure out some of that stuff. And we had just come out with our 24-inch transmitter at that point, and I mean, I tell you what, we were fighting traffic loops, we were fighting passive interference, we were fighting depth range, we were fighting everything that this board could throw at us. It was throwing at us. I mean, it was negative 20 degrees outside. I mean, the whole bit. I mean, it was not a pleasure to be out there whatsoever. And you couldn't even walk into the creek without having to take a half-a-mile detour just to get down to a spot where you could climb down. And I tell you what, it was one of the more difficult pieces I've ever had. And I failed that shot. I failed that shot. I wasn't able to complete it. But I tell you what, it did tell me, it taught me a lot about doing your proper routine and making sure you're getting set up correctly, and walking your board plan and making sure you have a plan before you start anything whatsoever.
So would you say from that bore you learned a whole lot that day?
I tell you what,
and
it wasn't
you probably didn't make that same mistake. Whatever you was struggling with, you probably learned a lot and haven't made it since.
I tell you what, it wasn't a day-long deal. It was, we were on this thing for probably over a month. We kept coming back to it because we had to keep trying different pieces. So we started out with a 15, then we started out with a 19, and then the customer would have to bring in another housing, and we finally were able to get to the 24-inch, and we'd have to reset everything up, and they'd trip out and do all this stuff, and they'd have to make mud, and they'd have to get permission to go deeper, and it was probably a month-long process. And
wow.
And yeah, it wasn't just one day; it was everything. We were throwing so much at it that it was just, I learned so much in that one job, just on what we, not to be shy, to go full boat whenever we have to, not just sit there and throw the bare minimum at it. Sometimes you just
and
gotta,
and that's what I tell the guys in this industry. They're like, they look at me just because I'm old, and they look at me and they're like, well, you're just here to teach. And I'm like, man, I learn stuff every day out here with these guys. Every day I'm on a rig, and every day I'm learning something. And it's not always about mud.
Right.
It's it's about a locator. I've always been fascinated with the locating system. So when I'm on a job and they're doing a walkover, I mean, I'm constantly like, hey, let me see how that's changed. Let me see how that, because just trying to see how the technology's kept up. But every day out on a bore, I learned something, and
Agreed.
I think you could attest to that.
100% agree. Yeah, this is an industry I don't think you could ever know everything about this industry, ever.
What do you think is the most underrated part of a bore that is kind of not spoke about enough?
Most underrated part of a bore. The pre-bore plan,
pre-planning.
What we say, like getting in there and actually putting your due diligence into making sure you have all the aspects covered. I can't tell you how many times I get on a job site and what we call driller's time. We're out there. They're telling us to be there between 7 and 7:30, and they're like, "Yeah, we'll be ready to drill."
Every bore
7:30, we'll be ready to drill.
Yeah.
Then comes 8:30, 9:30. They're still potholing or doing whatever it is they got to do to get ready for that bore. We're like, I thought you said 7:30. Like we were ready to go a couple hours ago, and then finally like 10:30, like, okay, we're ready to bore. And I'm like,
that's a common denominator in this whole industry. It doesn't matter what part of the country you're in, it's the same because. And I think that's just part of being a part of the service.
It is.
We're all in the service industry. So, it's part of it that we have to accept.
Yeah.
But, it is pretty eye-opening that a little bit of pre-planning, for instance, guys like us, if we're sending a mud engineer out there and they're paying a day rate for a mud engineer, or they've got a guy out here that's, doing the wireline or, any of these third parties that are being paid, and I see it all the time, guys that say we need to be here on Tuesday to start, and we get there on Tuesday and nothing really gets cranking until Friday or Monday.
Yeah.
And they're sitting there paying those guys the whole time. And, I think I think you're spot on that. Pre-planning is
it's a huge piece that gets neglected all the time.
Well, and we see it in the mud industry, and that's that's why we developed our dealer relationships. Setting up our dealerships all over, because we realized that very few people plan ahead, including on what mud they're going to use or what they're going to need. The guys are headed to the bore, and they're like, hey, run by Ditch Witch, run by Vermeer, pick this up, run by where their closest place. So they just really don't plan ahead, even on the mud side. And I'm sure you see it every day with batteries, and, any of your
a whole bit
wear items.
Not even picking the right frequencies. We have something called walking the bore, where we want them to walk the path and scan for the right sets of frequencies, and we can barely get them to even walk the path just to make sure they know where they're actually drilling. So I'm like, well, you got to walk it anyway. You got to know what your bore looks like. Why don't you just take that locator with you and scan it, and you get the best set of frequencies you can.
How many times you think you got to tell them that before they actually start doing it?
I tell you what, it's a never-ending battle.
Yeah,
never-ending battle. You get a few customers that you reach out to once in a while, and they're like, "Holy cow, that made a huge difference!" And those are the ones that you're thankful that you got in touch with. But then you got the guys who are just drilling those basic shots like you were mentioning earlier, and they don't need to change anything hardly ever. And when it comes down to the moment when they need it, then that's when you get those phone calls. And
one thing I always liked that I will give DCI some prompts on, when we were in the field and we needed help, we could call that 800 number. Absolutely. And we got help immediately. Absolutely. And I don't ever remember getting on the phone with somebody and needing to reset or needing something. How do I do this? What button do I push?
100%.
Why is this thing not calibrating? I can't ever remember them not being able to walk me through and fix the problem that I had. So.
I'll tell you what, I don't give our guys credit enough, man. Our customer service guys, Eileen, Ray, Donnie, Peter, those guys are great. Between all of them out there, there's over, I think we did the math the other day, there's over 175 years plus knowledge in the industry just in those guys sitting behind the counter, answering calls over there. And
never one time did they say, hey, let me get so-and-so to call you back. They was able to handle the problem that was thrown at them.
And they'll stay on that line with you until they come to some sort of resolution. They won't let you go until you
I was impressed with it. That was good.
Those are our guys, and we feel that is the biggest part of our industry. The electronics is obviously, of course, important, but you can buy the electronics all day long, but it's the after-sales service that's the most important piece. And our customer service team is by far our strongest piece of our company. So,
well, I talk to guys every day online. I talk to them in person on the phone, and they're always asking what could I do different to improve my company. Everybody wants to improve their bottom line, improve their company, and I just think you can have you got to have a drill rig, of course.
Absolutely.
But I think I look around at some of the crews and they skimp on things that I don't feel they should skimp on. And then you'll look and they'll be having to skimp on one thing, but then they'll have the nicest trucks in the industry for everybody to drive. And I'm like, man, if you would just get a better mud system, or if you would spend your money on the locating system they're using, maybe upgrade that locating system. The drill pipe they're using, sometimes they'll choose a cheaper drill pipe than what they should just because trying to save a few bucks. Yeah. And I tell everybody, use good steel, use good mud, and your good electronics. That's what's going to make or break your company.
Batteries for us, man. Batteries, you get these guys buying a Falcon F5 system, which is like a Ferrari, and then they're running C-cell Ryobi batteries in it. And we're like, why would you run unleaded gasoline in a Ferrari?
Tell me the difference in the batteries, because a lot of people watching this aren't going to know the difference, and they may be needing to switch themselves.
So I'm no expert on batteries, but understanding this, the Falcon transmitters were designed specifically around a specific battery called the supercell battery, which is our silver supercell, our main battery that we sell. So the power output and the wattages that come off of that battery are designed specifically to operate that transmitter at max capacity. We also tell guys that they don't want to pay for that supercell, which is like the high octane fuel for that thing, they can go down to Energizer batteries. Basically, each battery manufacturer, the way I understand it, they have a different kind of chemical makeup, and some of them are more they're more apt to give you better voltage versus better amps. And when we're talking about the DCI side, we need the amperage is where we really want to have that. It's a high current type of situation. So having just the right batteries is a super important deal. I would say probably at least 90% of the phone calls I get on a day-to-day basis and my dealers on that matter, even the guys at customer service, batteries are probably 90% of the problem.
And always have a good battery backup.
Yep, the supercell batteries are the most important ones. But again, if you don't want to mess with those, you can get into the Energizers. We are now getting into lithium rechargeable batteries as well, so the customers can kind of get into those. And then with our new transmitter that we're releasing today at the show here, we actually have a proprietary lithium rechargeable battery that goes with that new transmitter that will really make a big difference.
Tell me about this new transmitter.
Yeah, so it's called the Falcon FTP Plus. It is a 3-in-1 transmitter. It basically takes the best of our Falcon wideband transmitter, our Falcon rebar transmitter, and our FT2 wideband transmitter, and allows us to really dive in and get the best out of all those pieces. With the F5 series, the F5 wideband, you're going to get more depth capability than what we have, up to 40% more depth capability in a 15-inch transmitter. With the rebar side of it, we can get up to 4 times more depth capability with the rebar now than what we have now. And then on the FT2 side, we've optimized that to have better battery life, so that a customer can run for longer periods of time on better battery life if he doesn't need to go as deep as normal. So it really makes a big difference. The transmitter and the battery are one piece. It's not, you don't have a battery and a transmitter, you have the whole kit. So the battery is made for the transmitter made for the battery. It's a perfect combo. Yeah.
Where do you see the industry 5 years from now? Do you see anything, any big, great things coming on, or do you see the workload? What do you see it in the Northeast? I
tell you what, where I see, at least coming from my perspective, the things that I see are going to be more in the digital world. We're seeing a big trend now in as-builting, digital as-builting, and along with that, we're starting to see a lot more in the pre-bore planning phase, so bore planning as well. And then we're also seeing a lot of utility locators that are starting to map utilities and stuff as they go through and do the utility locating. So what I see is a mesh of all that information together into one big pile of product or whatever that is.
Right.
And the customer's going to have that, and they're going to be able to map these utilities and have that stuff on file in a digital format.
It's funny you say that because we were just talking the other day about where we see the industry, and you were telling us how the digital side is improving. We feel the same way on the mud side as well. We see a lot of stuff being talked about, and I believe it's just a short time before your all your maps, your people are starting to keep more data as far as what the soil conditions are in certain areas. That stuff, we started keeping up with the lines, like each city has to know where their lines are, and they, each line company owner is responsible. And I feel like it's getting more and more data out there, and I see it over the next 5 to 10 years. Guys aren't going to have to wonder, what's the ground like in Cleveland, Ohio, on 5th Street. So what kind of advice do you have for any new people that's looking to maybe get in the industry? Because our industry, what we see right now, I've been in this, basically since I got out of high school.
Yep.
and we've had up and down fluctuations of people needing new people in this industry. But right now, I believe there's more people needed in our industry than ever before. What's some advice you could give to a new guy that knows nothing about this industry?
Absolutely.
Or a new guy that's in the industry that needs to learn a little more?
Yeah. First off, ask questions. Be humble. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to let people know that you don't know everything, because you'll get out there in front of customers or other drillers, and they'll sniff it out real quick. So be humble. There's nothing wrong with not knowing the answer. So learn as much as you can. Ask questions. Be diligent about that. And then network. You can't get anywhere without getting out there, networking, and getting to know other people in the industry.
Yep.
I can't stress that enough. Whether you're going to be in the OEM side, on the manufacturing side, or if you're going to be on the worker side, doesn't matter. Get out there, network. Get as many contacts as you can.
Every job I've ever gotten in my life is from networking.
Absolutely.
Building your relationships is key in whatever you do, whatever side of this industry you're in.
Absolutely.
And would you agree with this? A lot of people think this industry is just huge, massive. And I feel like it's a big industry, but I feel like it's a very close, tight-knit industry.
Correct.
And word gets around real fast. So,
correct.
If you're good and you get into this industry and you try hard at whatever side you like, I think there's room for growth right now.
Couldn't agree more.
It's just like you. I mean, you was working at Geek Squad, and then you found something in this industry that, hey, that's kind of my niche. I think I can do this. Yeah. And now, look, you've got a great job, a great career,
yes, sir,
with a great company, and I just think it's awesome. I
appreciate that.
Josh, I want to thank you for coming today, and I want to thank you for joining us. We're early in our podcast, as you know, and a lot of people don't even know we have it going yet. So we're doing some interviews and some podcasts.
Fantastic.
And you taking the time and giving us a chance to sit down with you. And we're learning how to do this. This is all new to me as well. Yeah. But I do think it's highly needed in our industry, because we need more guys like you and I in this industry to help fill everybody's shoes, because it's a very small industry. If you guys, if somebody wants to check out your all the products that you guys have, where would they go? Yeah,
they're just going to go to digital-control.com. All of our products are on there. There's even links to who all your territory managers are out there. And if they want to check out anything, just give us a shout at the DCI 100 number, which is on that website.
And what was that website again? Say
digital-control.com.
Digital-control.com.
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
We're going to check it out. And I want to see some of the new stuff, because I'll be honest, I haven't got on it in a long time. Yeah. I haven't had the need, I guess, but I'm going to check it out, and you guys check it out too. And Josh, thank you again for joining us today, and enjoyed it.
Yeah, this has been great. Thank you.
Thank you.